It's been on a steady decline since 2012.
The Manitoba Wildlife Federation says pickerel are being overfished to the point of extinction in Lake Winnipeg.
I always think about what I'm going to create. My mind never stops sometimes.
And look at how artists in Cape Dorset, Nunavut make their world-famous prints. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridgen. The federal government has unveiled its plan to fight climate change today. Some provinces won't implement that plan, so now there will be carbon levy on fuels in those provinces: Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario.
In return, families living there will get rebates of a few $100s. The Green Party says it doesn't go far enough. The Conservatives say Canadians can't afford another tax. It's all made for a lively question period in the House of Commons.
But the government's own documents, which I have in my hand, clearly lay out that large industrial polluters will pay nothing whatsoever, while middle-class families will pay more. Isn't this just a tax grab to fund more out-of-control Liberal spending?
The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend knows that that is not the case. He knows that his party does not have a plan to fight climate change. He knows that his party for 10 years under Stephen Harper did absolutely nothing to respect Canada's obligations globally and domestically to fight climate change. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know this is real. We saw in my province of New Brunswick historic floods this spring. We've seen the same across the country. We've seen wildfires out west. Mr. Speaker, we need a coherent plan to fight climate change, even if the Conservative Party doesn't have one.
At the end of the day, Canadians know that a measly $12.50 a month will not cover the true cost of this carbon tax. Life is going to get a lot more expensive for hardworking Canadians and families, and large industrial polluters are getting off scot-free.
The goal must be 45% reductions in greenhouse gases by 2030. To get there, you say we start, let's put in place a price on carbon. Okay, that's done. Check. Let's eliminate fossil fuel subsidies. That was also part of the Liberal platform. It's not done. In fact, they've increased fossil fuel subsidies by deciding to buy a pipeline.
More than a dozen of the Labrador land protectors who occupied part of the Muskrat Falls Dam site were in court today. They say they are protecting their Indigenous rights and traditions. In the fall of 2016, they made an effort to stop Muskrat Falls, a giant hydroelectric dam west of Goose Bay. Scientists projected flooding would lead to methylmercury contamination of traditional foods that Innu and Inuit communities downstream depend on. Nalcor, the Crown Corporation building the dam, got a court injunction to end a blockade of the site. Many were arrested after they ignored it and continued to try to stop construction. 17 protectors, most of them Indigenous, are in court this week, pleading not guilty. Denise Cole, who is Southern Inuit, says she is upholding her Indigenous beliefs and traditions.
So I think for me, standing tall in the face of this colonial oppression, it's already a win, it's already a success to my ancestors and to the next generations. I've upheld my responsibilities, and I can walk in or out of this courtroom or any place proudly, knowing that I've done that.
A Manitoba Wildlife Conservation Group is calling on the province to implement sustainable fishing practices for Lake Winnipeg. It's the largest commercial fishery in the province, and the group says if things don't change, some fish populations will continue to decline. But as Brittany Hobson shows us, some Indigenous fishers aren't convinced that's the case.
It's been on a steady decline since 2012.
The pickerel population in Lake Winnipeg is going extinct. So is its close cousin, the sauger. That's according to the Manitoba Wildlife Federation. The group held a rally at the legislature calling on the government to change the commercial fishing industry.
The primary reason for the decline in the fishery, we believe, is a very outdated quota system, which essentially governs how the commercial fishing industry operates.
Brian Kodak is the Federation's managing director. He says current harvest levels are unsustainable. Kotick suggests the province increase the minimum net size for commercial fishers.
Currently, fishermen are using anywhere from 3 to 3¼ inch mesh nets, and they're catching a lot of the smaller fish, especially walleye, that haven't even had a chance to spawn yet, so they're taking out the future spawners.
David Monkman is a commercial fisherman on Lake Winnipeg. He went to the rally to hear what Federation anglers were saying. He does not agree with their concerns.
The fishing has been down other times, other years, because everything goes in cycles. And we've had good years of fishing, we've had bad years of fishing.
He's worried changes to the current system will negatively affect the way commercial fishers make a living. He estimates there are 1,000 in the province and 3/4 of them are Indigenous.
From what I see here, all the blame is put on the commercial fishing. And they talk about how small the commercial fishing industry is. You know, well, if it wasn't for the commercial fishing and the way the fishermen are looking after the lake themselves, there wouldn't be any angling.
Kotick says his main concern is with non-Indigenous fishers, but Monkman doesn't see it this way.
They're praising up the commercial fishing in one breath and they're kicking you under the table in the next breath.
Monkman says pollution of the lakes is doing a lot more damage than the commercial fishery. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
First Nations, environmentalists, and newly elected members of Vancouver City Council held a press conference today. They want the federal government to give the National Energy Board more time to conduct a review of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. APTN's Tina House has the story.
5.5 weeks. That's the amount of time the Trudeau government has given the National Energy Board to find interveners and file their expert evidence for the review of the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project.
The Prime Minister is without conscience, without any sense of responsibility to the citizens of this country and future generations.
According to West Coast environmental law lawyer Eugene Kung, if an extension is not granted, he says that there is grounds for another court case.
Having unrealistic deadlines for interveners, 5 weeks to find and file expert evidence when it was initially 7 months and eventually 14 months last time around. I'm talking about having an incredibly narrow scope to minimize what it is that they're looking at. Specifically, they just made a decision to limit the geographic scope of the marine shipping evaluation to 12 nautical miles rather than 200 nautical miles, which the vast majority of interveners asked for.
Newly elected Vancouver City Councillor Jean Swanson also had a message for Prime Minister Trudeau.
I just want to remind the Prime Minister that people who oppose this pipeline are being elected. We were elected on Saturday, and we'll use every tool we can to stop this pipeline.
Chief Lise Pahan from the Coldwater Indian Band was also at the press conference.
It's so short and it's so flawed. How can Justin Trudeau call this meaningful? When he was here in British Columbia twice, and I did an open invitation to the Prime Minister to come to Coldwater, and I never heard.
You cannot build a pipeline in a war zone. I've said that before, and it's impossible. You have to have the goodwill and the support, the social license, and for Indigenous people, you have to have consent.
Consultations have not begun with First Nations as of yet, and what's not clear is how they will do that. The National Energy Board has a total of 22 weeks to file the entire review. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations has been in disarray for the past 30 days. That's according to Saskatoon Tribal Council Chief Mark Arcand. He says the FSIN should be cut out completely so the Tribal Council can deal directly with the federal government. This rift becomes public just days before 1,037 FSIN delegates elect a new chief on Thursday. And that's not all. Saskatoon City Police are investigating an individual or individuals at FSIN, but they won't say who or why. Kim Jonathan is the FSIN Vice Chief. She is not running again, but has called on the federal government to conduct a forensic audit into the organization.
And it's been said that this investigation is politically motivated, politically driven. It is not. This investigation dates back to November 2017. There have been previous staff within FSIN and current staff within FSIN and leadership that have went to be a witness, provide their statements to the Saskatoon City Police.
What appears to be a communique on FSIN letterhead sent to APTN News says their legal counsel has been unable to obtain information about the investigation from Saskatoon Police. The document raises concerns with the timing and Jonathan's, quote, unilateral actions to date, as well as the time of these allegations just before the upcoming FSIN election.
Late-breaking story out of Northern Ontario, a cold case that's being reopened.
We'll tell you about that right after the break, but first, here's tomorrow's weather forecast.
Hey, I'm Annette Francis in Akwesasne. I'm here with Louis Mitchell from Seven Leaf. Louis, tell us what is Seven Leaf.
Seven Leaf is the first First Nation wholly owned and operated licensed production facility to produce medical cannabis in Canada.
Okay, and what does that mean for the community of Akwesasne?
For the community of Akwesasne, we can, at maximum capacity, we expect to employ 75 people in our community, which is a huge, I guess it really enhances the quality of life in our community.
Okay, and so tell me how long it has taken to get this going.
We started the process in November of 2013, realizing that Health Canada was going to implement their marijuana for medical purposes regulations in April of 2014. We submitted our application in July of 2014, and we've managed it right up until July 21st of this year when we received our license.
Okay, thank you. So we'll have this story, we'll have more on this story tomorrow on APTN National News.
In the East Coast, we've got 4 and some snow in Fredericton, 14 in Halifax. In Nukshiwaks, -4 and snow. Kuujjuaq, -2 with some sun and cloud. Chibougamau is 1 and snow. Saguenay is beautifully sunny and 3. 9 and sunny in Toronto, 5 and sunny in Sault Ste. Marie, 2 and cloud in Big Trout Lake, 6 is for Sioux Lookout, Thunder Bay, and sunshine there. Puckatawagan's in at 1 and sunny, 7 and sunny in the Paw, 5 and sunny in Norway House. Lots of sun in the south, 2 7s for Barons River and Princess Harbour, 10s for Gimli and Winnipeg, 17s for North Battleford and Saskatoon, 16s for Regina and Estevan, sunshine down in the southern Saskatchewan, 5 and sunny in Uranium City, 2 sunny in Stony Rapids, 13 and sunshine in Meadow Lake.
Welcome back. The Ontario Provincial Police has released new information on an old case today. The investigation is centered on Sioux Lookout in Northern Ontario. APTN's Kathleen Martins is following this story, and she joins us now. So, Kathleen, what is the case specifically that we're talking about here in Sioux Lookout?
Well, it involves Audrey Anderson. She was 19. She was found in the early morning hours of an very early October 1972. She was found deceased on Drayton Road, so sort of in the front on some property, and she had a traumatic head injury, which was consistent with perhaps being in a car accident. And so they did an autopsy, and the coroner said, yeah, that's what it looks like happened to this young woman, Audrey. So the case was initially investigated as a car accident, a fatal involved car accident, and then it was closed.
And so we're now, 48 years out from that? What's reopened it?
Well, the inquiry, the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, her family, Anderson family, it's a large family. They miss Audrey, and they testified. And that put them in touch with an OPP, Ontario Police, Provincial Police liaison, who said, listen, we're interested to hear from families. So they've met with 20 families who said, we think there's more to some of these cases that happened with our loved one. Audrey's family was one of those, of 20. And they said, we think that there's more to it than a car accident. Could you have another look? So this morning I spoke to the cold case officer and the head coroner in Ontario, and they reviewed the documents and they said, yeah, we think there could be something more to this. So they've reclassified this case from accident to undetermined, and by doing that, the coroner triggers a reopening of the case, and that gives police some leeway to now start asking the public for help.
And so where does the investigation go from here? I knew you mentioned that they're now looking to the public for help. Is there any details that they've given you about what they're looking for, who they're looking for?
Yes, they said that Audrey was in the company of 2 men in a pickup truck when she left a place called Lee's Cafe in downtown Sioux Lookout, Ontario. Now, they're not telling us who those men are. They're not revealing any more details about the vehicle other than it was a pickup truck. They say they're hoping those men may have shared information about what Audrey was doing in the vehicle with them, or where they went after she was no longer in the vehicle with them. So I asked, like, have you interviewed those men? And they said yes. I said, are the men still living? They said yes. I said, are the men still in Sioux Lookout? They said yes. And I said, well, are they suspects? They don't answer that. So I'm going to, play amateur detective here and guess that they need evidence from the public that will give them grounds to then be able to re-interview these men that were in the vehicle, who could hopefully shed light on what happened to Audrey.
Well, this is certainly good news for the family. 40 plus years of waiting. Better late than never, I guess, maybe. Well, this is something we'll definitely be following. Thank you for filling us in on what's going on in Sioux Lookout with this case.
You're welcome.
The OPP has established a tip line. You can call 1-807-738-5962 if you know anything about the Audrey Anderson case. And there's a new batch of world-famous Cape Dorset prints, which are done.
We're there to talk with the artists. That's coming up after the break. But first, here's what's coming up on Face to Face after tonight's news. Our guest this week is Rai Moran, the director of the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Among the topics is the controversy surrounding statues coming down in the name of reconciliation.
Canada is not the only country grappling with this. This is an issue world over, as many countries attempt to decolonize or re-understand their histories. So I think the process that we're going through in Canada is very, very healthy. I think these conversations need to be happening, and we absolutely need to be looking very critically at the actions of both our contemporary leaders, and certainly our past leaders.
To northern Alberta, we've got 11s for Fort McMurray and Peace River and sunshine there. 14 in Red Deer, 15 in rain in Calgary. 12 in rain in Campbell River, 14 mix of sun and cloud in Vancouver, 13 and mostly sunny in Victoria. Dease Lake is 7 and raining. Fort Nelson, sunshine and 5. 9 in Dawson, 7 in Mayo, and 8 in Whitehorse, sunshine for those communities. 3 in cloud in Norman Wells, 3 in sunshine in Wrigley. Fort Simpson's in at 6 and sunny. Tech is in at 0 as well as Polytech. Sax Harbor's -5 with some snow. -16 in Cambridge Bay, but sunny. Arviat's -3 in sunshine. Repulse Bay, -16 in sunshine. Pangertung is in at -8 and some snow. Clyde River, -11 and snow. Igloolik, -17. And Iqaluit, -3 with some snow.
Welcome back. The Bear Clan Patrol in North Winnipeg is getting ready to move into a new home. The space has been dubbed the Bear Clan Den. The newer facility has been under renovation since April. There's been a couple of setbacks. Asbestos was found in May and there were some permit issues with the City Hall. But the new den is scheduled to open in early November. Until then, the Street Patrol will continue to work out of a shipping container. James Favel is one of the patrol's co-founders.
In the wintertime, it'll be open for people to come and warm up and things like that. So, yeah, it's going to be a resource for the community. That's our intention. That's our purpose, is to be supporting the community, and whatever supports we can offer, we're going to be doing it out of there now, and a lot more of it.
Cape Dorset, Nunavut is known all over the world for their famous prints, and every year Dorset artists put out another collection. Our Kent Driscoll went behind the process and found out for every artist and every print, there is a team at work.
Here in Cape Dorset, the land inspires the art. You can't separate the work from the community. This is the 59th year Cape Dorset has released a print collection. But what you might not know, just how many artists it takes to make one print like this. Samayu Akasuk started drawing in 2011, and she's had 2 solo exhibitions since. This is her work. She works at the elementary school during the day, but the art is always on her mind.
I always think about what I'm going to create. My mind never stops sometimes. I'm like, what am I going to create? How can I make it different and whatnot?
The art is then sent over here to the stone cutters. Not all Dorset prints are done on stone. There's also lithographs and aluminum printing. But this is the classic Dorset style. The art is traced on that stone slab and chiseled out by hand. One finished stone cut takes about a week. Over here is where the actual printing takes place, and it's just as complicated as all the other steps. Niviksi here has been working at the studio since a high school job placement. Today, he's working with an aluminum print. That's an etching of this, baleen, basically the teeth of a whale.
It's aluminum plate drawn by Suganasuna. Right now we start using more aluminum plate compared to in the past I used to use more stone.
He carefully mixes the ink, cleans off the etching, and gets just the right amount of ink for a test run, all the while making sure it is just the right color and texture, because these fine details matter. This is just a practice printing a newsprint. When he has it perfect, he'll put it on paper. Nothing less than perfect for the collection.
Sometimes if you start working, it looks easy. By the time you work on it, oh, that's work involved, a lot of work.
And this is the end result, world-famous Cape Dorset prints. What you're seeing right now is the 2018 collection. Each print is only printed 50 times, then shipped around the world. Tomorrow, we'll take you to the premiere of the 2018 collection and have a look at what the hard studio work turns into. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Cape Dorset.
I had no idea.
Me either.
That is a really
looking
cool
forward to
story.
seeing the final product there.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the news that we have for you tonight. I'm Melissa Ridgen.
And I'm Dennis Ward. Stay tuned now for Face to Face with Rye Moran, the director of the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Have a good night.